Well, I hope that was a good way to start today's session. Thank you so much. I am going to be handing over to the three fabulous debaters who got cut off in the end of our last session, Ellie, Eila, and Kavya. I'm going to pass the floor over to you now.
Ellie's Wi-Fi cut out, so she's not here right now. She's trying to get back in.
Okay.
She warned us of that. Do you guys want to move forward with this?
Yes.
And we'll go to the next slide.
Let's keep going. We can just go slide by slide. It's okay, I think.
Kavya, you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so what is debate? So a debate is a formal discussion or an argument between people with opposing arguments. So they have the opposite opinion, or they're debating opposite sides of an argument. And it's an essential component of our democracy. So like we see with our presidential debates, our vice presidential debates before elections, and our opinions and voices can be heard through the form of debate. So, debates don't just happen on the national presidential level. We have them, in our everyday lives too.
Good.
Okay. Well, we'll just go ahead.
Next question.
Eila, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So for elements of debate, one of the most important things to remember is that it's not about speaking over your opponent. It's more about convincing the judge that you are correct and what you're saying makes more sense. So a huge part of debate is civility. It's being polite to your opponents and attacking their argument and making sure you're not saying anything personal or anything that could be considered rude. You just want to kind of prove to the judge that you're correct and that your side makes more sense in the long term. And then there's a lot of speaking skills involved. It's very public speaking based. So you want to be making eye contact with the person you're speaking to, whether it be your opponent, but most of the time your judge. And then you want to articulate your words and speak in a way that everyone can understand what you're saying, which kind of goes with speaking slowly because you really want the judge to be able to hear your argument. There's no point in speaking super fast and saying a lot of words if no one's going to know what you're saying. Oh, sorry. And then lastly, you just want to make sure to organize your argument. So you want to do what's called signposting, where you go through the argument in the way that your opponent goes through it first. So when you're refuting their claims, you don't want to refute something that they said third and then go to the point that they made first and then go to the point that they made second. You want to go in order so that it makes the most sense for your judge.
All right.
Okay. Debate.
Then you guys are going to demonstrate this, right?
Yes.
Okay. Debate construction. So how you craft your argument is you have an assertion, which is your claim. So I could be saying that students should not have homework. That's my claim. Then I'm going to give my reasoning. I think students should not have homework because it increases stress and it takes away time for them to do other things. And so you would give your 3 reasons why you are giving your assertion and your impact. How will your position impact the status quo? So if something changes to what you are saying, how will that impact people? And your evidence. What information do you have to support your assertion? So any statistics, research, any news articles, those can be used as evidence.
All right. So anybody here get to watch any of the primary debates or maybe the presidential debates and now you're like, oh, that's what they were doing? I can't see the screen, but Anne, you may be able to see if anybody, I know that this is interesting for me because I never took debate in high school. And I totally can see how in the primaries, the candidates were doing this and in the presidential. So it's really interesting. It starts young. All right. Eila, this is you.
Okay, so in a debate format, there's a lot of specific rules that make it super organized. So you're going to have 3 speeches each. And first, you're going to have an introduction. So you'll be given a resolution, which is what you're going to be arguing. And the speaker, so the first speaker is going to want to give generally 3 contentions. It doesn't always have to be 3. Sometimes you have like 4 or 2, but most of the time you're going to have 3 contentions, and those are your big ideas and like your main talking points. And then you can have sub points underneath those contentions, and you kind of go into those contentions a little bit more, but those are the most important parts of your speech. And then your second speech is going to be your rebuttal speech. So this is after your opponent has already spoken, and you're just going to kind of go through everything that they said. And rather than attacking them as a person or the way that they're arguing, you want to make sure that you're explaining why your points make more sense than their points, or why yours are better. For your argument, you want to be explaining that to the judge, not to your opponent. And then lastly, you're going to have a closing kind of summary, and you're going to talk about your impact, which is a really big deal in debate. You want to be talking about how this helps the majority of people. It doesn't matter who you're arguing for. You could be arguing for the country, you could be arguing for yourself or for your family, but you want to really tie it into the judge and explain your impact.
That's excellent. So what other, if you were talking about careers, I mean, it makes sense for a politician to know how to debate. In both of your lives, how have you seen this affect how you interact with people? Like, do you debate with your parents about curfew? Do you debate with your teachers about homework?
I think for me, debate and like public speaking in general has really helped me with my confidence in any day-to-day interactions. Like, I don't know, a few years ago, talking like this in front of a group would probably have terrified me. And also, I'm an instructor for people of all ages for karate, and so any public speaking aspect, it's just really helped me with that. And also papers for school, if you know how to organize an argument, it helps a lot.
Yeah, I completely agree with that last point. Writing papers has become a lot easier for me when I tie in like my debate knowledge with it, especially for like organizing my paper and making sure that everything that I say makes sense for my teacher. It usually ends up like, if I write my paper with a debate mindset, I find that I get better grades on it. And then it's a huge thing with confidence for sure. Speaking to huge crowds, or just speaking to your family, speaking to like your friends. It's really helpful to be a lot more confident in yourself.
Excellent. So now we're going to see you two in action, debating, I think. Do you have what
first? Can I just ask first, Amanda? Because a lot of the girls on this call probably aren't thinking necessarily about careers yet, but maybe the next step. And I wonder, do you all have a debate club at your school? I know Ridgefield and Wilton do, right? And they're really competitive debate clubs, aren't they? They travel, and I think Ridgefield is sort of state champs, right?
We are part of the CDL, and I know last year, I think there were people that could have gone to states, but they got canceled because of, the whole pandemic thing. And then this year, we have a few teams that are going to the state competition as well.
Awesome. So what's the first opportunity you have to practice debate at school?
It really depends on what school you go to. So I went to Eastridge Middle School in Ridgefield. Um, and when I was in 6th grade, my English teacher started a debate club. That was the first year we had it. Not all middle schools have a debate club, but I think your high school definitely will.
Is it the same in Wilton? Yeah, Savannah's nodding. Yeah, cool. Okay, so for those of you who are very inspired by what happens today, now you know. Okay, Kavya and Eila, I don't see Ellie back on yet. Is that right? I think she's not here yet. Are you ready to do a demo for us? Great.
I don't think we have something to debate. Does someone want to give us something, like a topic?
Dress codes.
Dress codes. Okay. Eila, do you want to take the affirmative or the negative?
I'll take the negative.
Okay. How long do we want to speak? Doesn't matter. We can do like a minute-ish.
Yeah, I think like 45 seconds a minute.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'll start since I'm the affirmative. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Kavya Anand, and I'm debating the affirmative of the resolve that schools should have dress codes. Now I will lay out my contentions for this. So my first contention is that at school, we must maintain a level of decorum. My second contention is that at school, our primary focus should be on our studies and not what we are wearing. And now I will go into my contentions. So my first contention, that at school we must maintain a level of decorum. At school, sometimes we see people who are wearing clothes that are extremely revealing. Now, this may not be appropriate for a school setting. It can be distracting to ourselves and to other students, and it can eventually be detrimental. And for my second contention, that school should be about learning and not about what we wear. Every day when you go to school, you should know that your appearance is not what matters. You're going there to learn, you're going there to gain knowledge. And so whatever you're wearing should not take away from that at all. Thank you. Also, guys, just saying, I don't actually agree with what I'm saying right now, but you have to be able to convincingly debate things that you don't agree with.
It's a great point. So now we have the rebuttal.
So for your second speech, for the second, when it's your opponent, after they first spoke, your first speech you're going to talk about your contentions, and then you're going to say, if time allows, I'm going to go in and rebut what my opponent said. So what I would say is, hi, my name's Eila Nambiar, and I'm the negative side of this house believes that dress codes are important in schools. So I would say my contentions, which are dress codes imply that students' interests are not equally important, and that clothes allow for creativity within students. And so I would go back into my first contention a little bit, and I would talk about how dress codes kind of imply that if a student isn't necessarily interested in solely schoolwork, as in like English, math, science, everything that a school teaches, they're not as important, even though that isn't really true. Like, they can have any interest that they want. And if wearing certain clothes and maybe designing clothes and mixing things up with their clothes gives them joy and excitement and allows them to express themselves in a way that they wouldn't be able to normally in school, then it's really important to let them have that. And then for my second contention, that clothes allow for creativity, that kind of ties back into my first contention, where I'm talking about how it might give them joy, it might allow them a chance to really invest in something if they're not as interested in everything that their school has to offer. And then I would go back and rebut some of Kavya's claims, which are that a school must maintain a level of decorum. And if I were to rebut that contention, I would probably say something along the lines of that implies that allowing students to run freely with their creativity and change things up with their clothing takes away from the decorum of a school and makes a school less respectable in a sense, which is a really dangerous implication to have because you don't want to make a student feel like they're not as important because they don't share the same interests as everyone else. And then going back into her second contention, which I think was that a school's primary focus should be on studies. If I were to rebut something like that, that would be kind of hard to rebut because you don't want to say something that could hurt you and your claims. Like you don't want to say that like studies are not the primary focus of schools because obviously that's what you're in school for. But you could say something along the lines of, if you make school solely about studying what a school has to offer, that takes away from students' joy and they're no longer going to find anything interesting in school, and that could cause them to start slacking off and start caring a lot less about school, which in the long run could lead to them never going down the path that they were meant to go down, which could be something really harmful for students.
Good.
Okay, so now I would rebut. I would say, this is my rebuttal speech. So I would reintroduce myself. I'm debating the affirmative of the resolve that schools should have dress codes. And Eila's first contention was about the creativity of students, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I would say that a dress code is not the same as implementing uniforms. Schools can still allow their students to express themselves and be creative, as Eila was saying, design clothes while still having these outfits be appropriate for a school setting, because we're not curating what exactly they wear. We're just curating that they're appropriate for a school setting. And what was your second contention?
It was that clothes allow for creativity.
Yeah. So again, clothes allow for creativity. We are not trying to stifle creativity. We are just trying to, again, maintain a level of decorum and modesty in a school setting. And then I would say, then I would discuss my impact. That's, if I have time, I discuss my impact, and I would say something like, in the long run, this would help students focus, gain the most out of their studies, and while still allowing them to be creative and reach their fullest potential. And so dress codes should be enforced in schools.
So after she says that speech, my last speech would be my concluding speech, which I talked about in the organization. So you're kind of going to want to tie everything together and boil it down for the judge to the clearest that you can. So a lot of the times debaters like to use like two world analogies where they talk about how in their opponent's world, so for example, with Kavya and me, in Kavya's world, it would be that I would say something a little bit extreme, because you want to make yourself seem the most correct. So I would say something like students don't have the chance to be creative with themselves, and that creativity sort of dies down at a young age. And then as they grow up, they're no longer doing things for themselves in school. They're kind of doing anything to just please the teacher and move on with it. And then in my world, students have the opportunity to be creative and have sort of an outlet for themselves and pursue something that might be a little bit different. And then you would want to talk about the impact of your opponent and the impact of yourself. So I would say that if you implement dress codes super strictly, you're going to be taking away these students' opportunities at creativity, and you're going to make them feel a little bit less important, because you're making them feel as though their interests kind of take away from the school's decorum and take away from the school's respectability, which could really hurt these students. And then you want to talk about your own impact. So allowing students to dress freely with obvious, constraints, with things that might go against school policies themselves that would allow for them to be creative, express themselves in ways that they may not be able to express themselves in everyday classes.
A couple of things. One, you would usually have at least an hour to prepare your argument. There's different kinds of debate. Sometimes they give you weeks to prepare. Sometimes they give you an hour at the time of the debate. And you would, again, have evidence, statistics, quotes from experts, supporting both sides. So this was very impromptu. And usually you have to speak for a lot longer than just a minute or so. So yeah, this was very sort of the spur of the moment kind of thing.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful. Round of applause. Thank you guys, because you were put on the spot there. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's great. I'm going to go back to sharing the screen.
So we're going to be going out into breakout rooms now. And for the participants, it's time to think about an issue that you would be interested in debating. So as we go into the breakout rooms, you guys get to pick what issue you're going to be debating, and just accept the breakout room split, and you'll be out with some mentors.
Wait, did somebody have a question?
I don't see any hands up. Oh, wait, Eila, do you have a question? Or is that just a hand on the screen? No, she's gone.
All right, I think that was an accident.
Okay.
Can you make me and Eila co-hosts so that we can jump into the breakout rooms and see how everyone's doing?
Yes.
That's a great idea.
Yes. Exactly.
How is Julianne not in a breakout room?
So should I stop sharing again?
Are they going to be able to see? Can they see the practice? They can't see the practice slide in the breakout rooms, right?
That's what I'm wondering, is how this goes into.
Can't.
They can't see it.
They can't.
Mm-mm.
Mm.
Okay, so 15 minutes, huh?
Yeah. Tops.
Can somebody stop the recording? How do you do that? Oh, I can do that.
Everyone, I'm going to speak to the participants for a moment. And I just want an idea. What did you ladies learn from this activity? Okay, Elise.
That you have to be
Elise, tough to hear you.
one, you have to be pretty precise. So picking your 1 second.
Can we use the chat?
Elise, you might be muted.
I'll
Hey.
type it in the chat.
Can you write it in the chat, honey?
Yeah, she said she was going to write it in the chat.
All right, let her write it in the chat. While she's writing it in the chat, Kanira, what did you learn?
That like you have to like speak very loudly and you have to be brave.
Okay, good. Maggie.
I learned that you can like agree with someone's point, but also disagree with like their whole reason in general.
Okay, all right. Do we have Elise's response in the chat room there?
I don't know. Pip's
All
ready.
right. I see Pip is ready. Okay, Elise, you keep on typing away. Pip?
I learned that you have to, what's it called? You have to have like your reasons, but you have to say them clearly, but not as like so that they can hear you, but you have to do that. But in a way of like when you explain it, it makes sense. Like your opinion for it makes sense when you say it.
Good, good. Okay. Elise? Let me see, what did Elise?
I sent it to Amanda.
Okay, Virginia, she direct messaged him to me.
Okay, all right, Amanda,
Okay,
can you read it?
so yes, she said, for one thing, it's important to choose your points carefully and to make sure they are different enough.
Right. Oh, good, good. It's great. What did you find most challenging? Kanira?
That like it can be like a little bit challenging to speak in front of a lot of people.
Yes, yes, it can. Sydney?
Well, I found that sometimes it's hard to make an argument right on the spot. Like you don't have much prep time.
Right. We're going to fix that, though. We will. Pip?
Wait, sorry, what's the question again? Sorry.
What did you find most challenging?
Okay, so what I found most challenging was you had to get like think of a reason, but that disagrees, but it can agree with the people that that it can agree with the people that you're arguing with, but different. So it was sort of challenging of not to. It was challenging not to like say lots of agreeing things.
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah.
lots of agreeing things.
Okay, absolutely. Charlotte?
Charlotte, you might be on mute.
Yeah. Okay, now I can hear you.
The most challenging thing is probably speaking against something you agree on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Okay, one of the things that I think it was Kavya or maybe Ellie who mentioned it before, and I think a lot of the mentors will probably say this is true, and that is the format of the debate is a skill that you could use when you're writing an essay at school. It's an argument. It is a way for you to tell what is your position on something? What is your issue that you're thinking about, that you are passionate about, that you want to fight for? And then take that, think of your 3 reasons or more, give them to your audience, and then from there, draw the conclusion so that people understand what you stand for. And that is all part of what we call campaigning. Okay? All right. I think we're going to go straight to a break, and then we're going to talk more about campaigning and how you're going to use this.
So stretch break with Alexia.
Sure. Okay, hopefully it's on speaker view for everybody. So if everyone could stand up. We've been sitting all day, and stretch out your hands and try to touch your toes as best you can. And try to touch the floor even, and stay there for a good 5 to 10 seconds before coming back up. Stretch your hands out again and reach up to the ceiling as tall as you can.
Yeah, and you can tilt back and forth. And then put one arm across. Stay here for a few seconds. Make sure you really pull it tight. And then other arm. And then with our neck, do a neck roll. So start at the bottom and then go all the way around a few times. You can change the direction too if you want. And then with your legs, sorry, I'm wearing sweatpants, but pull your foot up to, I don't know how to describe this, but really pull the front of your leg. Try to get a stretch. Been sitting all day, and then switch. All right, and then just stretch anything else you want to stretch. Crack some knuckles or anything like that. That always feels good. And sit back down, unfortunately.
Thank you, Alexia. Can we go back to the slide? Every other presenter, every other mentor has not been skipped over with this intro slide. In case you couldn't tell, Alexia is...
Yes, and Anne, I apologize. Yeah. It's not letting me jump back to that, so.
Okay. Alexia is a dancer. This is Alexia's third year mentoring for Ms. President. She's the publicity director on the MPU Junior Board. She's a treasurer for Save the Children and DECA. She's a Girl Scout Gold Award recipient and a Connecticut Girl Scout Board representative. And in addition to dancing, she loves baking and fostering puppies for guide dogs for the blind. So we have so many fantastic mentors, and we really appreciate that stretch break. Thank you, Alexia. And now we're going to watch a video, I believe. Okay.
Opportunity to have my thoughts heard.
I'm going to back it up for volume.
Ms. President presented like a really nice opportunity to have my thoughts heard. I just thought it would be cool to meet people and like learn about the government because at that time I didn't know anything. We started off with an activity sometimes, and then we usually had our public speakers. So we had mayors, we had first selectmen. You could learn about like all the different leaders and ask them about their experiences. We learned about public speaking in general, like how you go about doing research, how you find like a reliable source. It was super inspiring to hear all the women come in and speak to you, thinking that, oh, one day I could grow up and I could be like them. You pick a topic that you were really passionate about. My first one was technology and social media overuse. My platform was peer pressure. My platform was on LGBTQ rights. I chose transportation access. My best friend and I, our platform was zero waste. I researched it, created a presentation, creating Google Slides, writing a speech. I also made some posters. It was very, very thrilling. You get up on the stage, everybody's looking at you. You can hear yourself speaking through the microphone. It was very fun. We won and we gave each other a hug and we just like started cheering. My mom and I were jumping up and down, sort of squealing like little kids. That was definitely an amazing experience. After I won, we went to the Capitol with the state senator at the time, and he gave us a citation that said, Mr. President, U.S. He said it in front of the whole House of Representatives. I made speeches at the Lounsbury House. I spoke at Litchfield's 9/11 ceremony. I didn't know basically anything about our government and how it worked and all these females in the government. And this president has taught me a lot about that. I gained a lot of respect for all of the different campaigns that go on and how much work really goes into it. And right now I'm actually working on a campaign. Participating in school, it just comes easier. I think I've gotten better at public speaking, asking the good questions and interacting with people. I love to public speak. I just get this rush. Like, wow. My big takeaway was to stand up for what you believe in. One main thing that this program has taught me is to not be scared. Don't be scared to put yourself out there. Participating in Miss President is more than just learning about the government. It's finding your voice, learning how to be confident, learning how to speak, because you're going to need to speak in whatever you do. I'd suggest it to a lot of people. This is a very fun program. It's super duper duper fun, and you should 100% join. Activity sometimes, and
So now that we've heard a little bit in the video about what it's like to put together a campaign and run for Miss President, we are going to have one of our participants facilitate a Q&A with some participants now who have actually gone through the whole process. So to introduce our next segment, we've got Clara Jane Mitchell. She'll be our facilitator. She is a 4th grader at Cider Mill School in Wilton. She loves to bake and to rollerblade, and she's a Girl Scout junior. So I'm handing it over now to Pip.
Okay, hi guys, my name's Clara Jane Mitchell, but lots of people call me Pip. So I'm going to ask Gopika Shep and Charlotte Fandrick some questions about their campaign. So hi Gopika and hi Charlotte. I'm going to ask you some questions about your campaign. So Gopika, tell me about your topic and how you chose it.
Hi, so my topic for the second time I ran was diversity. And I picked that because there's some things going on in my school and in my environment that made me pick this topic, and I was like, people need to hear about this, and it should be something that everyone knows about, and everyone should know what to do about it and how to handle it.
Okay, thank you. And what do you think you did well
on? I think I did well on the presentation. So from this one, I created a slideshow. And for this one, specifically for this topic, I had to do lots of statistics research. So I think that was one of my very strong points in my presentation.
Okay, thank you. And Charlotte, what was your topic?
My topic was to help pets in need because my dog Willa, we rescued her and she really needed our help.
Okay, thank you. And do you think you could have done anything better?
Yes, I think I should have done my presentation a little differently and how I use my wording.
Okay, thank you. So Gopika, did you have any campaign helpers? If so, what did they do?
Actually, for all the times I ran, I did not have a campaign helper or vice president or anything. I was the only one on my team.
Wow. And since you had no one helping you, was it hard?
So I've never had the experience of anyone helping me, I don't really know what to compare it with. So I'm gonna say no, it wasn't actually that hard.
Interesting. Cool. Charlotte, how about you? Any helpers? If so, what did they do?
Yes, my mom helped me my presentation, but I technically did everything else myself. My mom really helped support me, saying it was my first year, and helped me because she does many presentations, so she helped me prepare for the whole election.
Well, I think that's really great. um, thank you all for helping us understand more about campaigning.
Thanks, Pip. I love your little icon, the cake that pops up when your video closes. Does anyone here have any questions for the panelists? Any further questions about anybody who's run in the past?
Did anybody recognize anybody in that video?
Elise, I see your hand up and I'm afraid about the audio. Do you want to type your question in the chat or to Mrs. Mitchell? And I know Maggie did have someone that she ran with in the past. Maggie, could you say anything about what it's like to run with someone?
Sure. So I've run with someone every year, and it's a lot of fun. Most of the time it's my friend, but I know a few people in the past who have became friends with others, and that was fun. But anyway, so working with someone else. So the first year, my friend was the creative director and I was the president. And so she would do the slides and I kind of worked on the speech, but we would both come up with ideas and what we wanted to talk about and reasons like that. And then the second year, my friend was the president and I think I was the vice president. And so that was like more of a group work. We didn't have any specific jobs for both of us, and but it's really fun working with a friend. However, it's not hard working without someone else because you know what you want to do, and so it's a lot of fun. The election is what I look forward to every year.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Maggie. That's great. I believe Elise's question came in.
So Elise asked, what was your experience either waiting for the result or trying to get people to support your cause?
For me, it was easy because I was the only one from my town. So I was like an automatic winner. But the second question, what was the second question again?
Let's see, it was, or trying to get people to support your cause.
I think you really have to connect with your audience while you're giving the speech. So you're not trying to talk from like you're from a higher position. You're trying to address the audience as kind of like your equal and be like kind of put them in your shoes and explain to them why this cause is really important to you and why it should be important to them too.
I love that advice, Gopika, about treating them like your equals and trying to engage with your audience. That's great. That's a little bit complicated on Zoom, right? It's a very different format and you've had the experience of doing it both ways now. And so it's very, very different. You made a very interactive, or not interactive, but very creative and dynamic slide presentation to compensate for not being in person, which was just fantastic. I wonder if anybody else who's on here and has run would have any words of advice for girls who are thinking about running this year. And we encourage everyone to run. Go ahead, Maggie.
So I have been doing the program since 5th grade, and I can, in 5th grade, I was super shy and I was kind of afraid to speak in front of a bunch of people and a bunch of strangers, but over the years, it's really helped, and the election, I think, really affects that. And but one tip is get the word out and bring a lot of family and friends. Let them know, because you'll get a lot of votes. But it's a lot of fun, and working on it and doing it at home at your own pace or in the sessions is a lot of fun.
That is such spot on advice, Maggie. I want to tell you ladies, I was on a call last night with a woman who went to my college, who is the mayor of the city of Knoxville in Tennessee. And as a mayor who's a woman, her advice was, tell people what you're doing and let them help you be brave. So it's just like Maggie said, right? Builds up an audience of supporters.
I love that.
Charlotte, is that one more piece of advice that you have for other girls?
Yes. My advice that my mom gave me was, you always have family there to support you. You have one person there that will support you no matter what. And it really helps you find courage.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, which is our Mentimeter for tonight. We actually have not run out of time. So girls, we'll put the link in the chat, or you can scan it if you want, to give us some feedback about what your takeaways are from today's session.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to tell you that you will receive a Google form in the next couple of days that's going to ask you if you what role you might like in the campaign for March 21st. And we'll start getting out invitations that you can share with family and friends. And we really encourage everybody to run for your town. This is a good year to. It's on Zoom. Next year, we'll probably be back at the Playhouse, or we may also have a side-by-side at Zoom. But we would love to have everybody involved. And you'll also be asked about mentors, and they're going to be paired up with you. So that'll also be fun.
I'm going to assume that you all have been able to see this slide long enough, and we're going to end with a young woman who has become famous almost instantly since the inauguration. Have you all seen this woman? I see some nods. Yes. I don't think it will hurt if you've already seen this to see it again. We're going to play the poem that Amanda Gorman read that she had written at President Biden and Vice President Harris's inauguration.
And she's using her voice.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny Black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first. We must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the west. We will rise from the windswept northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade of flame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it
For there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Wow.
I hope we can all be brave like that in whatever we choose to do. And if that means being brave running for Ms. President, good for you. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for your feedback. I hope you have enjoyed yourselves and challenged yourselves in debate. And we really look forward to seeing you at the next session and to hearing from you in your choices about what you plan to do for the upcoming election. Thank you so much.
Thank you.